Good evening, I'm Britt Clennett in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show, Carrie Lam appoints her first official more than a month after winning the chief executive election. Dust storm envelops swathes of northern China, prompting government warnings for children and old people to stay indoors. And Buckingham Palace announces Prince Philip is to retire from public life. To London first, where across the city people are saying they will miss Prince Philip's sense of humour. The Duke of Edinburgh will no longer carry out royal engagements from the autumn this year. Amber Austin-Wright in London has more.
Well, it's important to bear in mind that the Duke of Edinburgh is 96 years old, so it's hard to deny that he deserves to put his feet up. The Prince has been by his wife's side throughout her 65 years on the throne. He's taken on more than his fair share of royal duties during that time, including leading the Duke of Edinburgh Awards for young people. The statement from the palace says Prince Philip will attend previously scheduled engagements between now and August, both individually and accompanying the Queen. But after that, he'll step down from all public duties. The Queen, the world's longest reigning living monarch who celebrated her 91st birthday in April, she'll continue to carry out a full program of official engagements. The announcement was made following a meeting of senior royal staff at Buckingham Palace. Speculation about that meeting prompted speculation about the health of the royals. However, a well-placed source said there was no cause for concern about the welfare of the Queen or Philip. The couple, who are due to celebrate their 70th wedding anniversary in November, have been cutting their workload in recent years, and much of that has been passed on to son and heir Prince Charles and grandsons Princes William and Harry.
Well, it's been more than a month since Carrie Lam was picked to be the city's next leader, and today she's finally appointed her first official. Lam chose former Immigration Director Eric Chan to head the CE-elect's office and intends to have him stay on with her office until after July 1st. She said Chan will assist her in forming her cabinet and ensure a smooth transition between the two terms of administration. Lam defended Chan amid critics questioning his understanding of her policies, saying her cabinet is a team that will complement each other.
My criteria in forming the team or in finding candidates to fill important positions in a team are really people who are committed to Hong Kong, who have the ability and the compassion to serve the people of Hong Kong. And in these respects, KK perfectly fits the bill, and so I am extremely pleased to have him on board.
I totally agree with her new style of governance, her policy initiatives in her manifesto, and I deeply believe that under Mrs. Lam's leadership, Hong Kong will have a better future. When she suggests to offer me such a position, I agree immediately without any hesitation.
Meantime, Law Society President Thomas So also laid out his expectations for the next Secretary for Justice. So said he hopes the incoming official, who is a person who is backed by the legal sectors and Hong Kongers. The President said he told mainland authorities that he felt previous interpretations of the basic law initiated by the NPCSC had been rather hasty during his trip to Beijing. He urged Beijing to inform Hong Kong ahead of any plan to interpret the law in the future, so the public can have more room to express their views. So also hopes the next Secretary for Justice can help to work on that.
From the government's and from the chief executive perspective, they would obviously need that person to be able to assist the government in pushing forward the government's policy to increase the transparency of the interpretation of the basic law procedure is something that, of course, we would like to see to be explored.
Hong Kong's last governor urged Chinese President Xi Jinping to reiterate that the central government will keep its promises to the Sino-British Joint Declaration during his expected visit to the city in July. Speaking at a commission on Hong Kong 20 years on from the handover, Chris Patten said the high degree of autonomy promised to the SAR had decayed over time. He added the city's judicial independence and academic freedom is also under pressure. He said if Beijing can't keep its promise to Hong Kong, the international community would doubt its capability to deal with other more complicated issues. And news elsewhere, a dust storm blanketed northern China, prompting fears over people's health. Government data showed the country's air quality index rose to 630 micrograms per cubic metre in parts of the capital by Thursday morning. The World Health Organization recommends concentrations of just 10 micrograms. Graham Mackay has more.
Dark skies, low visibility and air quality sinking in Beijing on Thursday. Not an all too unfamiliar sight, but this is not just another pollution surge. Swathes of northern China have been blanketed by a dust storm, prompting government warnings for children and old people to stay indoors.
It feels really unpleasant. It feels even worse than the smog in the winter. It feels just like you're breathing in dust into your stomach.
Spring is China's dust storm season, when winds whip across the vast Gobi Desert in Mongolia. And in major urban areas, it becomes a massive pollution trap. Air quality readings in Beijing more than 60 times below the World Health Organization's recommended breathing level on Thursday. State media say the worst of the storm will be concentrated around the remote Mongolian border. But northern areas, including the capital, will be blanketed for at least 24 hours.
To the US, and President Donald Trump is a step closer to fulfilling his campaign promise of repealing Obamacare. With House of Representatives set to vote on a revised health care bill, Republicans are confident they have enough support to pass the legislation. If successful, it then faces an uphill battle in the Senate, where Trump might not have as much eager support from moderate Republicans. Trump is banking on this being his first major legislative victory since taking office in January. And militants in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir state are thought to be behind 2 bank robberies. In the first incident, about 5 gunmen barged into a local bank, taking nearly $8,000. About 2 hours later, another local bank was targeted in Anantnag district. This time, 5 militants fled away with over $2,000. The attacks come just 2 days after militants ambushed a bank van, killing 5 policemen and 2 bank officials. Security experts say since the Indian government suddenly scrapped high-value banknotes, cash-starved militants have been intermittently attacking cash vans or banks in Indian Kashmir. To Colombia now, where surgeons faced an unusual situation. Doctors attempted to extract $7,000 from a 30-year-old woman's stomach. She swallowed rolls of $100 bills. It's thought the woman swallowed the cash in a desperate act to hide the money during a fight with her husband. Although 57 bills were taken out through surgery, the additional rolls will be passed through the colon. The fact that the rolls weren't wrapped ruled out possible illicit transport of money by the women. And now to business news with Pamela Ambler.
Hi there. High petrol prices in Hong Kong are a headache for many drivers. Well, the Competition Commission today revealed several problems making the fuel market less competitive than it perhaps ought to be. In a report, it said the local market share of fuel is mainly taken up by 5 gas companies, which share a similar structure. That's made it hard for new companies to enter the market. The report also pointed out local drivers find it hard to compare prices at the pumps because of a lack of clear signs. But the watchdog said its study found no evidence of players skirting anti-competition rules. And returning from a break in trading, let's get a check on how Hong Kong markets did today. The benchmark Hang Seng fell a slight 0.05% to 24,683 points. Investors reacted to the hawkish policy statement put out by the U.S. Federal Reserve. The market was sluggish in the morning session, but recovered much of the losses on some better than expected corporate earnings news. And taking a look at that earning news now, the HSBC posted a 19% fall in first quarter profit. The result, though, did beat analysts' expectations. The index heavyweight surged nearly 2.9% in Hong Kong trade. The lender cited a change in its accounting system and costs associated with restructuring for the loss. Chief Executive Stuart Gulliver said the bank has exceeded its asset reduction target and will continue to remove low-return units. More signs that China's economic recovery is slowing down. Growth in the country's services sector cooled to the slowest in nearly a year in April. The Caixin Purchasing Managers Index fell for the fourth month in a row. Businesses say they're worried that tightening credit conditions and higher borrowing costs will further slow growth. Taking a look at the IPO market, despite political uncertainties, South Korea has emerged as an unlikely bourse for public listings. The market has charged ahead in deal activity to become the third most active in the world this year, behind China and the U.S. And the pipeline is strong, with new rules allowing more companies to launch public offerings. At its latest meeting, U.S. central bank policymakers downplayed weak first quarter economic growth, but highlighted solid consumer spending and jobs data. All signs point to a possibility of raising rates as early as June. Fred Kaneyama checks on whether the Fed is on track for 3 rate hikes this year.
The Federal Reserve is staying put. It kept interest rates unchanged as expected. The central bank's policymakers sounded bullish in the statement it released upon the conclusion of their 2-day meeting. They downplayed the recent signs of slowing economic growth, such as a weak first quarter GDP report, softening inflation, and disappointing job growth in March. They characterized that slowing growth as transitory, emphasizing the strength of the labor market and solid consumer spending. That signals the Fed could raise rates as early as June. Bankrate.com chief financial analyst Greg McBride.
Well, coming into the year, the Fed had projected 3 rate hikes this year. And by all indications, that remains on track. We got 1 in March. That would mean we'd get 2 more in the balance of the year. That's certainly what markets expect. The Fed didn't have anything in the statement that would dissuade markets from believing that.
Stocks pared their losses